All right, guys, thanks for being here on our Saturday call. I have Katelynn Blackburn. Katelynn, can you hear me loud and clear?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hey, thank you for joining us today. I was telling someone yesterday, your name came up in conversation, and I was like, Caitlin's one of the people that I've talked to recently that is really well rounded at both recruiting and selling. And I think a lot of people are like good at one or the other, and they're like, oh, I only want to recruit, only want to sell. And you've done both at a super high level and continue to do both at a super high level. So I wanted to have you on to kind of go through that with our agents. But if you want to start, give a quick background of, how long you've been in the business, your biggest, maybe your biggest month, biggest year, per production and team wise was, and then we can start going into some Q&A stuff, but I'll let you
Yeah,
introduce yourself and roll from there.
absolutely. Well, thank you, Zach, for having me. I've been in the business now for this is going on 3 years, coming this May. And my background is not in sales, but I guess my background for my personality is I'm extremely driven. So this was a great opportunity for me to be able to come into this and really dictate my own income. When it comes down to selling and recruiting at the same time, like going back to when I first started, like sales was my main priority just because I really needed to learn how to do that in order to bring people in the business and show them how to do it. I also didn't really want to bring people in and expect them to do something that I had never done myself. So I was really just trying to figure that out for 6 months to a year, just producing all in homes at the time. And that really allowed me to learn the sales process. From there, I truly believe that recruiting and sales go hand in hand. So if you are selling at a high level, people are going to notice that and they want to work with someone that's actually putting in the work. And I always realized that it didn't really matter what my bank account was looking like or how, I felt that day. I was like, well, regardless, you can't become complacent in a business like this. You have to be able to do both so that people want to follow you. And you have to
Yeah.
like earn the respect to be hard on people. And if you've never done it yourself, you can't really do that. So I always thought of it that way. First year after selling, I brought in a lot of like warm market, people that had known me from previous careers, previous, high school, college, all of that. And I brought them in with me. And then when I started seeing that they were having success without the sales experience, it wasn't something that was, completely dependent on me. It was really dependent on them. I was like, well, why don't I branch out and start recruiting people from other sales organizations or maybe other vehicles where they don't have the same opportunity as we do. So that's what I did. Obviously delegated tasks in other directions. I hired employees that can take care of the back end stuff for me, was able to hire some recruiters, get people on my books so that I could speak to them all the time. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what it led
How did
led
you
up.
how did you get into the business in the first place? Because you were a nurse before you did this, right?
Yeah,
And
so
you're a
it was,
single mom, right? So like
yeah.
super impressive to have done what you like. It's hard enough to build a business. When I started when I was 22, we weren't married at the time. I had my girlfriend, who's my wife now, but she worked a lot. I had no kids, and it was hard to build a business in that scenario, right? So what you've done as a single mom with a kid is way more impressive than like some 22-year-old who had no responsibilities building a business. So I guess two questions, how did you find FFL and why did you decide to jump in? I'll do one at a time. I have a bad habit of asking people two questions at a time.
Oh,
So
it's
start
totally
there and then
fine.
I'll ask the second one.
So I found it on Instagram. Bowen had, posted something. I believe it was like one of his friends that had posted like a sales job position. And I had
Hmm.
followed that girl and I was like, what is this? Like, it didn't really give a whole lot of information, but it caught my eye. And I had really thought, because I was working more of a corporate job and I knew that there was going to be a cap on my income. And another big reason was because my daughter was 2 at the time, and I really realized I wasn't seeing her a ton. Also spending a lot of money on childcare and all of that. So I was like, well, why don't I just give this guy a call, like see what this is all about. So he kind of gave me the rundown, and then from there, I just had the mindset of, I have nothing to lose because at the moment when I joined the business, I mean, I wasn't happy in the spot that I was at anyways. It was like
Yeah.
it was paying the bills, but barely. And I felt like I was consistently putting money back out just to not see my daughter. And I didn't really want that. I will piggyback off of that though when it comes to building a business as a parent, a single parent especially. and the sacrifices that have to be made at the very beginning of the business. People ask me that all the time, like, how did you do it? How do you do it? And my mindset always went back to the fact that, I saw all these people like yourself and all these other people that were building these big businesses, and time freedom comes with that. But there is sacrifices that have to be made in the beginning to get
Mhm.
there. So I always had that, no plan B attitude. Like, I gotta make this work no matter what. And whatever I have to sacrifice right now is only going to benefit our life in the future. So that's the way that I always thought about it. And it definitely, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, I've sacrificed a lot to be able to get to where we're at now. But, she's 6 now, and she and I have, time together where, like, I can actually delegate my schedule in a fashion where I can spend more quality time with her than I ever have. And I wouldn't have been able to get that 3 years ago, still working in a hospital. So I just had
Yeah.
that mindset. I think a lot of people don't have that mindset, and they're just kind of worried about, like, missing out. The fear of missing out, they have this FOMO. And realistically, I mean, if you have that FOMO forever, like, you're going to be stuck in that spot the rest of your life. I mean, like, you miss out on things now so that you don't have to miss out on anything later. And that was the mindset that I had. I don't really know where that came from, but just my
Yeah.
personality, I guess. I was like, that's, I know that I can do this.
People told me that when I was like 22, 23, 24. So like I don't know if I've talked about this on a caller before, but Deb and I didn't want to have kids at first. Like when we first got together, first got married, we were like, maybe we'll never have kids. And then when we moved to Vegas, we started hanging out with Andrew and Nicole a lot, Andrew Taylor and Nicole Taylor a lot, and their kid was super cute. And we were at their house like when they took his first steps, and I was like, oh man, like that was cool, you know? But people always told me like when I was 22, 23, 24, they're like, hey, work really hard now because you have a lot of energy and a lot of time. And you'll look back on that and be glad that you sacrificed. Like, what are you giving up? Going out and getting drunk at night, right?
Yeah.
And so like I listened to them, even though I wasn't sure if I ever wanted to have kids or live that life, I was like, well, I might as well just in case. And I'm really glad that I did because now I get to spend time with my daughter and I still work a lot and travel a lot. But like this week, for instance, right, my wife's working night shifts because she's still going to be a doctor because she wants to be a doctor. But so my schedule is like I wake up at like 4 in the morning, I get work done till like 5:30, I go work out, I go to the office, I leave at 4:30 so I can be home by 5 to get her from our nanny. And then I hang out with her till like 8 and then I get some work done after, right? But like
Hmm.
if you own your own business, you can work around things and still get just as much done. And that's what you were able to do is still see your daughter, but work around that because you're able to control your schedule, right?
Yeah, completely. I mean, it's way different than clocking in and clocking out. Clocking in and
Yeah.
clocking out is, I mean, that just doesn't allow you to have the freedom with your family. And that ultimately is
Yeah.
what a lot of people want. I mean, a lot of people that I speak to over the phone looking to get into this business, I mean, that's a really big thing. It's like, I want to spend more time with my family. I want to have more flexibility and more freedom. And I actually want to build something for myself. Now, the flip side of that is like, are you actually somebody that's willing to make the sacrifices and become the person that can, build a business? Because you have to be that
Yeah.
person in order to actually have the business. You can't just like wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm just going to be a business owner now. Like, it doesn't work that
Right.
way. You have to go through the trials, tribulations, and be able to get through the adversity that comes your way. And then if you can do all of that, then, you're going to be able to build something massive. And this is the perfect vehicle to do that.
We were talking on Monday and you're like, oh, I'm going to Carmela's school thing on Monday or whatever, right? And so
Mhm.
like you're able to do that now. When you first started, did you miss that type of stuff? And was that like, can you talk to the people who like have to miss stuff like that, what it felt like? Because you're not like some sociopath who didn't feel guilty for missing stuff. You were
Yeah.
just like, no, I'm gonna make that decision to miss it now so I can do it later, right?
Yeah. When I first started, I mean, like, in-home appointments too, like, I was dialing consistently Mondays and Thursdays, and my in-home schedule, because I was traveling also, was, it was really like 8 to 8 p.m. Like, that's how much I was working. And there was things that I had to miss, like birthday parties. There were, yes, I couldn't like volunteer in her preschool classroom at the time. Like, I had to make those sacrifices so that now, like, I'm in her class every week. Like, I'm able to do that. And you do feel bad and you have that guilt feeling, but the way I always thought about it was that if I do this now, then later I'm gonna have a lot more time with her. And right now she's, 2, 3 years old. She doesn't have a full understanding of really what I'm doing. But when they're 6, they have a better understanding. She really does want my
Yeah.
attention now. She really wants to play with me and hang out, and those are things that are really important to me now. But when she was 3, it was like, I need to put my head down and I need to sacrifice what I can now to make this work. Because if not, I'm going to be sacrificing the rest of my life. I really will be,
Yeah.
because there's going to be things that come up.
Well, it's cool because she has such a good role model for like what working hard and building something for yourself looks like. So my dad growing up was a doctor and he worked like a lot. He would always leave the house by like 5 in the morning, be home at like 6 or 7 at night, and then work Saturdays. Like I think people sometimes think doctors have like this cush schedule, but like he worked a lot and he worked really hard. And that was like two things I learned from that was like one, like I understood what it took to make money and what that looked like. But two, I was like, I don't want to have something where I have to work that much forever. Cause like he wasn't able to miss stuff, but I understood like there was some sacrifice to be able to provide. And I'm just so glad I got to see someone like that, live that life and understand like if you want to make that top 1% or even top 5% income, probably in his case, like that's what it really takes.
Yeah.
Um, all right, question transitioning into sales stuff. So you started out in home, then you moved to doing telesales, and then something that that you told me you guys have worked a lot on and have improved a ton is writing really good, profitable, clean business. What are some tips you can give people for, things they can do when they're doing telesales to make sure that they're getting clients, but also keeping clients on the book?
Yeah, I think that the transition from in-home to virtual can be tricky for some people, because in-home you automatically build more credibility just being in front of that person. So obviously like the sale itself is a little smoother. There isn't as much credibility that has to be built to get, their trust. But when you go to over the phone, you really have to be able to like put yourself in their shoes as well, and like realize that like you need to build the credibility within yourself. You need to build value in the product, and you need to make sure that you're having clear communication with that client. Because what I see a lot of people struggle with, and myself included, is not being able to be as clear and communicative with the client as you need to be over the phone, because it's happened so much more naturally in person. In person, there's certain things you can leave out because it's obvious. You're sitting there with them, they're signing the document, it makes sense, it's a closed deal, it's done. Paperwork's come in the mail, they know. If you're leaving things like that out on the phone, then you can end up in a spot where you're seeing a lot of things fall off. You're not as profitable as you want to be. And overall, as a business owner, that will affect you if your whole entire team isn't aware of those same things. So a lot of the things that we have changed is obviously our scripts, making sure that we're really building value with the client and building a relationship with them, but then also building value in the product and why they need it. Like that is like a very, very big thing. Like I know we go over the why, like in home as well, but if you can like kind of over deliver that over the phone, it's only going to help with the persistency and the stick ratio, because they can really relate to the conversation that you're having. That's just what we've noticed. And then also just like solidifying everything, like making sure that it's very, very clear that this is going to be something that you fully understand. This is going to be something that you can afford. And this is going to be something that is going to benefit you, because it's not tangible. So it's not like buying a car or buying a house where you're going to be able to see it. This is the insurance portion where, this is something that you utilize for your family to protect them when you're not there anymore. And really, really explaining that to them so that they understand the importance of it, and that there would be no reason why they wouldn't want to have that in place. You know,
Yeah.
if they have reasons why they don't want that in place, you need to go over that with them and figure out what that is, because realistically, to be profitable in this business, I tell people too, is like, I've wrote at a very high level, and I've wrote months where I've done like 30, 40K, and profitability comes from what's staying on the books. So it's like, if you can't find that why within that client and you're doing the very best that you can, then if they really don't have the why and you can't do it and you can't find it, then there's no reason to submit them if they don't think that they need to have the policy, because you will
Yeah.
find the next person that you speak to, they have a why. You go through that same process with them and they have a why. They want to take care of their family. They want to take care of their future kids. They want to invest money. They have a certain reason why they want that. And then that can make the sale a lot more solidified at the very end. Follow-up is obviously very important, especially if you are a high producer. So I recommend that anybody that is producing over 40, 50K a month to have at least somebody that can help you with follow-up. Because a lot of the times, like, if you're busy writing business and growing your business, you don't have the amount of time that you need to be able to do the follow-up or to be able to answer calls and stuff, and to have the client know that they have somebody else that they can go to answer questions, because sometimes it's as simple as, I need to change my draft date or something like that, like, or my bank account changed. How many people have like tried to get a hold of me about that, and like I just am so busy that I haven't been able to make that adjustment, and then something will lapse out. That affects
Yeah.
everybody, and you just don't want that to happen. So I would say that's super crucial as well.
Would you agree too? Like I love that you said you should just write the clients that actually have a why and push those people, the people that don't need it or they don't, like someone yesterday was asking me like, hey, my client said they don't have a beneficiary to leave it to. Like who should we leave it to? I'm like, if they don't have anyone to leave it to, don't write them a policy. Like there's literally no
Yeah.
point, right? Or if
Yeah.
someone has like $1 million of insurance they took out when they were 26 and they're 75 and want a $10,000 whole life, like if they want it, great, but you're not going to convince them that they need it, you know? And
No.
also, would you agree like that people, if you're just direct with them, if they want the policy and they need the policy, they'll respond well. Like example I think of like is people used to ask me, I learned this when I was in the field, but I've heard it work on telesales too. And when I did telesales, it worked. But people would always go like, hey, can we think about this? And a lot of people go like, well, we're not even really like, you're not committing to anything. We're just gonna see if you get approved. Like if you sell that way, you are going to probably be out of business in 6 months to a year because it does
Yeah.
not work long term. But like what I always used to tell people was like, no, we can't think about it. I'm here today. You told me you need something. Which one of these fits your budget now that we can make sure we at least get something put in place today? And I think people are scared to be direct with the clients like that, but they respond really well and they respect it if you're just straightforward with them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have certain agents too that tell them right off the bat, like, we're not going to end this call and I want to think about it. So I'm going to be very clear about that right now, that there is no I want to think about it. Like, if this makes sense, it's going to benefit you and it's affordable, then there'd be no reason why you wouldn't want this in place, right?
Yeah,
Like being very upfront with them. Same thing with asking for personal information, like social and banking. Like when my agents watch me ask for those things, I am so direct that it's almost scary to them, like how I'm getting that information out of them. It's like I just straight up ask for the social. I mean, I don't have
right.
a whole speech. I'm like, it's pretty obvious why we need the social. I already built the credibility. So it's like, I don't give a whole speech on why we need the social. I'm not going to run myself into the objections. Same thing with the banking. I'm not going to beat around the bush about it. We need a legal form of banking for your payment. This is going to come
Yeah,
out at some point. So we need a bank account on file with an account and routing number so that there is a secure form of payment so that every single month on a reoccurring date, it's going to come out of that account. If you beat
yeah,
around the bush with these clients, they're smarter than you think they are. They're literally not going to give you the information because why would they? It's weird. Like, it just don't be weird. Like, if somebody's asking me for my banking, I would assume that I'm paying for it, right? Like,
yeah.
yeah, like you don't
Like
have to
everything
be
else you
around
do,
them.
like your car insurance, your health insurance, your mortgage, all
Every
those
single
things.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's like anybody that
yeah,
asks for my card number or my banking, I am very aware that that is something that is going to be charged at one point. And you don't have
yeah.
to beat around the bush about that. I understand it's sensitive information, but you have built the credibility with the client and they should, by that point of the presentation, they should have a full understanding of exactly what they're getting into. And that's where
Mhm.
communication comes into play. And when you are building a business at the same time as selling at a high level, just make sure that you don't leave those things out because it's easy to forget and it's easy to just get caught up in just being busy,
Yeah,
like how busy we get, as I've been on the call with you. I mean, I see my phone over here and it's like crazy busy. And it's like, you have to learn how to compartmentalize your time when you're selling at the same time as building and helping your team because the client needs you in that moment or vice versa. The agent needs you in that moment, so be
right.
able to compartmentalize your time because if you're giving everybody this half energy, then a lot of things fall through the cracks and it will catch up with
Yeah,
you. So you just have to be
yeah.
very aware.
I was gonna say that's a good transition because I wanted to, with the last 5 minutes or so, because I know you're super busy, to go over, building a business, right? And so two questions that I know people probably ask you a lot, but like, where are you getting people to talk to? And then what does that initial, conversation look like? Are you sending them a video? Are you talking to them the entire time? Like what does that process look like from how do you find someone through they become an agent?
So I think marketing has actually really helped me lately. That's something that I waited a little bit too long to get into. Just because, to be honest, I don't like really love marketing. I don't really love taking videos and talking on videos and everything. It's uncomfortable for me, but hey, the business can be uncomfortable and you have to live in that spot to be able to really get good at something. So marketing and a recruiter. So marketing helps with the people that come inbound to me. So those are the people that maybe they knew me in the past, maybe they don't know me at all, and they're just curious about the opportunity. So we set up a phone call on social media, whether that be Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever the case may be. And then outbound would be like a recruiter, messaging people and seeing if they have an interest to hop on a phone call with me. Now, if they do, the way that I go about it is, I'm very transparent about the opportunity. I want people to know that this is a simple business, but it's not easy. And you are an entrepreneur, so you have to have that mindset when you come into the business to be able to be successful. So I basically break it down for them exactly what we do, and then I send them with some information, whether that be a podcast that maybe they relate to, or the video that's in my bio. Like that video is across the board, everybody has access to that video. It's Sean's video. So it's like
Mhm.
they can go and watch that and understand a little bit more about the business. And then I let them like tell me whether or not they think they'd be a good fit on a second call. So if they think that they're a good fit, then they're going to reach out to me because they've followed the instructions, they read the things I sent them, they watched the things I sent them, and then once we get on that call, I can clear up any questions that they possibly have. When I do that,
Mhm.
then we have a good mutual understanding if we're going to work good together. One thing that, eventually as you grow your business, you realize that not everybody needs to join your business. That's not the way this works.
Yeah.
Like if they take up your time and energy and they don't bring value to your culture, it's only taken away from your people. So you have to realize that like doing those calls and doing a lot of them. Like this isn't like a one call a day situation. People always ask me, well, how many recruiting calls do you do? I'm like 30 a week or more. Like I'm always talking to somebody about it. And it's like, this isn't like a lucky one-time call. Oh, I just get a top producer. It's like, that's not how that works. It goes from, finding the people, talking to them, seeing if they're a good fit, bringing them into the business and actually developing them into somebody that can be successful here. Because if you don't do
Yeah.
all three of those things, you really didn't do anything. You wasted a bunch of time for no reason, really. I mean, didn't benefit you or them if you're not doing those things.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing you just said about selling, right? You're not going to try to get every single person to work with you. You're not going to fit a
Yeah,
round peg in a square hole. You're going, this is kind of what I'm looking for. And if they don't fit the demographic of whatever you decide you're looking for, then you're saying, I think, no offense, but we're good. Move
yeah,
on. But if they make sense, like then you're like, cool. Same thing with the clients, right? Like, hey, you don't need this policy. If I get it to go through and I get in advance, then it charges back in a week. Like nothing good happened for either one of us or the insurance carrier, right?
yeah.
So like you're just making sure that you're putting so much quantity in your favor that you can find the quality that comes out of that, right?
Absolutely. Same exact thing. And that's where selling and recruiting go hand in hand. It comes down to the same exact thing, building relationships with both the client and the agent. Actually building that relationship is super important. You can't just bring someone in the business and expect them to figure it out like without any kind of resource. Like you need to have
Yeah.
resources there in place and a structure in place for people that are coming from 9 to 5s because there are people that want to be entrepreneurs, but they just really don't know how to. But if you have the structure in place and they have a strong work ethic like I did, they're going to figure it out. You just want to be there for them. And that's, I mean, I feel like that my personality helps a lot with recruiting there. Like at first I was a little bit too giving, a little bit too nice, I guess I could say. And now
Mhm.
it's like, no, I genuinely care about you. So I want you to be successful and I want you to be great, but you're not doing the things that you need to be doing to be great. So what are the things that need to change? And just being really upfront with them because you actually care. Same thing with a client. You're being upfront with them because you actually, care about what's going on. So
Yeah.
same thing. It goes hand in hand for sure, both ways. But if you get really good at selling, people will follow you. If you get really good at recruiting, people will follow you. And the more volume you do, the better off you're always going to be because it doesn't come with a couple calls a week. Like you
Right.
can't be a top producer and make a couple calls a week. Same thing with recruiting. You can't be a top recruiter and make a couple calls a week and think it's just gonna magically build itself. Like it doesn't work that way.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I know you're slam busy and I appreciate you jumping on with us. You guys have built an amazing business and your culture is really, I think one of the coolest cultures where everyone works really hard and is on the same team, rowing the boat in the same direction. And I love watching you guys grow your business. So thank you so much. I think you're inspiration to a lot of people and I appreciate you getting on with us today.
Thank you, Zach. Happy Saturday, everyone.